Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Villa Park podcast. It's me, Rich, and I'm joined by my faithful co-host Kev and Mr. KT AVFC. Good to see you, mate. I know we have had various issues this week with regards to internet, time, just life, really, mate. And yeah, probably wasn't the best week to not get on for a pod.
Yeah, mate, never mind. But we've let Unai get on with it, haven't we? We've let him get on with it, get to work with the players. We've not put too much because obviously our opinion is so sought after now that maybe if we'd been saying about what we thought should have happened a bit earlier, it would have got the dressing room talking. So probably best we've left it to last minute, I think.
Definitely, definitely. Well, yeah, we will recap the week that has been, and then we've got the small matter of Manchester United on the horizon tomorrow. A game that, if ever there was a game to get yourself in with the Villa fans, um, and ingratiate yourself with the support base, it would be to get a victory against Man United.
It couldn't be the most perfect game to play because of all the teams that we've got, that we come up against in the league. There's one that's had a hoodoo over us for years. I know we got that away win, Courtney Hawes, obviously last couple of minutes last season. And I know we got that one about maybe 12 years ago, and Gabby scored, didn't he, from a young cross at Old Trafford, another 1-0 win in that white Acorns kit. But really, isn't it some sort of crazy stat about it's the longest unbeaten away run in any, I don't know, whether it's Premier League or probably any league in the world, basically. And I think this says a lot about Villa, really, because, Villa are not, a lot of that time have not been a really bad team. We've been a bad team for a lot of it, but a lot of that time we have been actually quite a good team. And to not even get a win is just, yeah. So to come in first game, could you just imagine game one and he's the guy that breaks that Man United hoodoo? It would be brilliant.
Absolutely. And we will get into that. We've got a few stats to share with you as well in regards to the record that we have against Manchester United. The fact that we always seem to get them in cup competitions as well doesn't help. But yeah, we'll dive into that later on. But yeah, first of all, I think we were teased a little bit with regards to the start of the week, and it was going to be the 1st of November we were starting, and we were all expecting the tweets to come out and the pictures on the training ground and all that. But it's been quite a build up in terms of the week, and in the end, it turned out that he was he was kind of doing training sessions before he actually was officially unveiled to the press. I've put it, Emery is in the building, but what have you made of the kind of um, introduction that he's had to Villa?
I mean, from what I've seen, not a huge amount. It feels good. It feels good. I mean, I think the fact that he's spoke so fondly in his words about the fact that it's not just the Premier League, it's Aston Villa, and it's the opportunity to make history and to win a trophy, and all that kind of stuff is a rhetoric that I'm sure that Mr. Edens and Mr. Swiris wanted to hear from their new manager. But he says it confidently, not that a manager's going to say, I've come for a payday, it's Premier League, but a lot of people could say Premier League, massive opportunity, big club. He's saying this is the right project for me. And considering he's a hugely sought after manager, I mean, his only blemish is a blemish in inverted commas is a spell at Arsenal where he got them to Europa League final, admittedly a bad defeat, but got them to Europa League final. Their first European final since, was it the 2005 Champions League final? And also got them, I think, their best points haul in years in the Premier League, and brought through loads of youth talent. And that's seen as a blip, and 3 Europa Leagues in a row with Sevilla, obviously winning it with Villarreal and then taking Villarreal to the Champions League semi-finals, beating some big teams on the way. His pedigree is brilliant. He's come to Villa. He's saying the right kind of things. And then the best thing for me is I'm seeing him in like little videos in training, getting amongst it, and I just think, you know what, like he's going to put his stamp on this now. If I can understand his accent, I'm hoping we can start to see some of the things. He was stopping play, and I'm sure at times Aaron Danks stops play, and does that kind of stuff. But it feels like he'll be a bit more of a hands-on manager. I know he's got a good coaching staff, but it feels to be a bit more hands-on than probably Gerrard was. Maybe even Dean Smith was.
Maybe. I mean, we'll get into my sort of tweet later on that caused a wee bit of controversy, but obviously there he is on the training ground and pointing fingers. I seem to remember Gerrard was in and amongst the players when he first turned up, and they the Villa media team were all over kind of getting those videos out and stuff like that. So look, that isn't exceptional in terms of what coaches and managers do, and what they want to put out there and stuff. You want to make your mark, you want to put your stamp on the team, you want to make an impression. And I think I think also it was a strange one because he was there, he was officially sort of at that first training session announced, but I don't think his backroom team were there at the time, so it was kind of him and Austin McPhee, which was a little bit strange. But yeah, I mean, obviously, yeah, it was good to see him, putting his ideas across to players, and we've got here with his arm around Leon Bailey. Maybe he's going to be that bit more hands-on, that bit more kind of, giving real pointers to players and stuff as to how they can improve and what he wants them to do. Ultimately, though, it's about on the pitch, and it's about holding the players accountable to whatever he's told them to do, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, and that is the key thing. And with any kind of football team, you can see players reacting like we saw in the Brentford game. We've seen players reacting after a manager leaves, and then the week later, I'm thinking, actually, I feel sorry for Gerrard because the players didn't react. So the implementation of the ideas, because you think it a lot, don't you? How can a person make such a difference to these people that then are going out? I can't imagine if I'm playing five-a-side football, am I going to play any better or any worse if someone has a word with me beforehand and manages the team? But at this level, the plan and the setup is everything. And it's also, I just think it's about we've said this many times, mate, on this podcast, and also, stood together in the stands, home and away for Villa. Like, we just need to be a bit braver, a bit more brave, a bit more confident in our ability. I feel he's going to get the best out of as good as anybody can get out of the players. I saw, obviously, there's been a lot of stuff we've talked about on the introduction pod to him that, whether it was a couple of players from Villarreal were talking about him, but I saw an article where Edison Cavani, who worked with him at PSG, said of him, from the moment Unai arrived in Paris, he showed his passion for football. I really liked his way of working. It's the small details that determine these kind of games. They're won in the small aspects, and for that, you need to be very focused. He's a hard-working coach, and that's why he's won titles, trophies wherever he's worked. And that, for me, was the bit that stood out for me. It's the little details, and those little details that's what makes the difference between. I mean, there's a great quote, isn't there, from, if you haven't seen the film Any Given Sunday.
Yeah, I've seen it many times.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great sports film, but the best bits it's not even the sporting action. It's Al Pacino, and that quote about the edge. We've got the edge, and it's the edge that's the difference between living and dying, between losing and winning. It's like really emotional speech. If you haven't seen it, by the way, I would tell anybody to watch Al Pacino's speech Any Given Sunday. But in these fine moments in the Premier League, when you lose a game that you probably should have got a draw from, or you draw a game that you should have won, when you convert, less chances than you should take, all these little things, it's all margins, and you need to get the best, I think, out of your players by being meticulous and planned. So I'm feeling confident, mate, about what he's done so far. I get the whole thing. We'll talk about your tweet that, we've got a track record of, being shit for years, and it's all positive at first, Oh, Stevie Bruce will get us out of the Championship, won't he? What a manager that was. Di Matteo, he won the Champions League with Chelsea, etc., etc. But it feels like this is a real pedigree coach, and what I've seen so far, I'm all ears, really.
Yeah, I mean, let's obviously we'll go through one or two comments, because obviously people are joining, which is great. Thank you everyone for watching and tuning in. We've got Rachel in the house who says hi everyone. Shout out to Rachel as well, because she won our competition, and if you haven't seen, we've put out her picture out on our Twitter page as proudly wearing the staff hooded jacket that she won. So yeah, congratulations on that, and
well
thanks
done,
for joining us. And I think she is in. Oh no, Gary as well. He's joining us from Reykjavik, so that's fantastic as well. So thank you very much, Gary, for tuning in. Hope you're having a great time. Lots of comments about us trying to beat Man United. 1995 is a long time ago. It is definitely. That was a 3-1 victory. I seem to remember first game of the season that season.
You remember that game, mate?
The birth of the you will never win anything with kids quote.
That's it. That's what I was going to say. Yeah. Mate, can I just cut in for a sec? Gary, hi Gary. He said he's crossed 2 things off his bucket list. I want to know what they are. It's after the watershed, Gary. So feel free to go for it. But what are the 2 things you crossed off your bucket list while you're in Reykjavik? We'd like to see. We'd like to know. We'd like to know. Put in the comments, please.
Excellent. And we'll get Ant's put a good comment up that we'll touch on later. I've just starred that one. And Jack the lad is in Canada, so thank you for tuning in, mate. Good to have you on board. Aaron, hi, how you doing? And Willie, just subscribed and can't wait for tomorrow. Fantastic. Thank you very much, my man. So yeah, we're going to get into plenty of comments later. But yeah, one of the comments, and we obviously share the team, the sort of podcast Twitter page. So not all. I can't attribute all the comments to you, Kev. So when we get in flack, it's generally me, to be honest. But yeah, just a little read of what I said, and then I'll explain it, what I mean, and then we can kind of talk a little bit about it. But yeah. Press conference and everything. Actually, press conference first. He was unveiled. Was it Thursday? He was unveiled.
I think.
Or was it Friday?
Back end of the week, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, obviously, what did you? First of all, yeah, what did you make of the kind of press conference? I know you just sort of touched on the sort of comments that he made and stuff like that, but yeah, what did you make of that? Obviously, it being he had a couple of training sessions, then he was unveiled to the press on the Friday, then they went into the normal kind of United press conference. Was that something that was, because very often they'll unveil the manager and do all that sort of stuff before he does the training session, whereas he came in and sort of settled in with the squad first? Was that a purpose thing with Villa, or do you think it was kind of just the way it worked out?
I don't know really. I think maybe the way it worked out. I think unless it was deliberately a bit more understated, it felt a bit more understated. It wasn't Unai Emery's Aston Villa from the second he walked in. I think maybe they're thinking we've had a lot of bluster, we've said a lot of things, and we still want the rhetoric to be obviously be positive and confident and optimistic. I think is the key word, rather than positive. Positive is sometimes in the positivity and optimism, what a difference there is there. Positivity is when when you can see it's all shit. Optimism is believing it will be better, and I think that's where we need to be. So it was just a bit underwhelming, a bit understated, but maybe also what we needed.
Yeah, I agree, and I do think it was kind of quite good that he was in doing training sessions first. That kind of stuff was leaked to the Villa sort of social media, and Villa fans would have checked in on that. Not many sort of fans outside of Villa would have checked in on that. And then obviously the news conference and then the match press conference, I think, was probably quite a good way of doing it. Yeah, I guess what gets me, and I understand why they do it. I understand why they get kind of fed those questions, but the talk of trophies, the talk of Europe, the talk of Villa being a massive club, the project, all this sort of stuff. I guess that's what drove me to kind of send this tweet. I thought it was very impressive, but we've been down this road so many times as Villa fans, and I guess football fans have been down this road so many times. Like, I'm just sick of hearing it. I'm sick of hearing how we should be in Europe, or the dream of a coach is for us to be in Europe. And like I said, there's a nagging feeling inside of me that we'll be here in a year's time, and the Emery experiment wouldn't have worked. I hope it does. Like, this is not me. Like, a lot of people said, I'm being really negative and he hasn't even had a game yet and all this sort of stuff. It's not to do with him as a manager or him as a coach. It's to do with us as supporters and not giving managers time. And it's to do with the level of ability of the players and placing this kind of pedestal of Villa being this club that should be in Europe. And it winds me up.
I think I do get where you're coming from. I mean, the reality is from an optics perspective, it looks negative, but ultimately, it's a talking point.
We've never been. When was the last time we were in Europe? We've never been anywhere near Europe in the last, 15 years, 20
Yeah.
years. What, like, why are we even talking about it?
Well,
We've
well,
been closer to being in the bottom of the championship than we have to being in the Europa League.
yeah. I mean, it's other than our pre-season tour to Stade Rennais, you know,
Yeah.
that's
That's
about it,
what we
isn't it?
get excited about.
Yeah. Look, it was a negative, but again, I understand with context of the point you're making, because I do think we've said many times before about Smith, about Gerrard, about everybody that's been managers recently, is that there's more decision making that goes on at a modern football club these days, whether that's with Suso, whether that's with Johan Langer, whether that's with Christian Perslow, and then the picking of Gerrard as the manager. And it obviously interesting that Perslow's been nowhere near this unveiling. Yeah, Langer's been nowhere
No.
near it. I
I
know
mean,
Langer.
he still said like it's the biggest appointment or the most important appointment in Aston Villa's history, or some utter rubbish. I mean, he said that last time with Gerrard. Like, I'm sick of it. Honestly,
Yeah,
I just want to see them do it on the pitch. I'm not interested in conversation. I'm not interested in the fluff and bluster about
I know.
Villa
I
being
know.
this massive club, Villa being this, Villa being that. I'm not interested because Brighton are better than us. Brentford are better than us. Crystal Palace are better than us. Like, we can't keep talking about we
Yeah.
won a European Cup 40 years ago. It is just we need to just win football matches.
I think the thing is that, like, if you're not giving good stuff on the pitch, I mean, there's no solace, is there, when Forest were languishing at the low reaches of the Championship, to be talking about the mighty European Cup winning Forest. And I'm sure there was probably sometimes a slight sense of embarrassment. We went to Forest away. As you're walking up to the ground, you can see it's obviously quite a famous city. You've got the Notts
Mhm.
County ground. You've got the cricket ground. You're walking up through. You've got the Cluffy Cobb shop. It's all historic. And then they may be playing, I don't know, Yeovil or something in the league, probably at some point in the last 10 years. So you can look like a bit of a dick, can't you? If you keep talking about his good stuff, coulda, shoulda, woulda. It's the equivalent of the guy in the pub saying, "Oh, I would have made it a pro, but I met a girl and I did my Achilles, and
Yeah.
it wasn't for my Achilles, you know, damn
The line that
Achilles."
I've used many times.
Yeah. Um, but I do sort of somewhat disagree with you in some sense. I mean, by the way, anyone who wants to know, me and Rich generally run the Twitter account together. If it's a black thumb or a black fist, it's generally me. No, generally Rich. And if it's not, it's generally me. There you go. It's a little clue for you sometimes. Although sometimes you've sent me stuff to post and I haven't changed it, so therefore, gets a bit confusing. But
Yeah,
but but
90% of the time. Yeah.
I just generally think we've got to be on the front foot, and I've got in our narrative, but we've got to make sure that we back. If we write these checks with our mouth as a club, we've got to make sure we cash them properly,
Mhm.
because and that for me is, in the last few years they have backed people. Gerrard got back with a Coutinho, with a Digne, with a Chambers, and it didn't work out. Dean Smith got backed with the Grealish money, and who's to say how much Dean Smith wanted Buendia, Bailey, and Ings? We don't know whether that is. Maybe we'll never know, and for years until someone does an interview, right? But the club have backed us. They've got to back this manager with what he wants, absolutely. But I think you have to extol the virtues that you've got. We have won the European Cup. Admittedly, it was a few years ago, and we have won with like top 5-6 teams, aren't we, in terms of trophies won? But we've now got to give the fans something to really be proud of that. And there was a good comment I saw, actually, just a couple of comments back. 1 second, I'll pop it up from where is it about Newcastle? If Newcastle,
Yeah, Tuan said it. Yeah, I'd had it
here we are.
pointed out. Yeah, yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
If Newcastle can do it, why can't we, basically?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is the difference between what? I was just about to say that to you, mate. I was saying, the kind of glimmer of hope that kind of clubs of like us, can cling to is the fact that Newcastle, within the space of less than a year of are kind of competing for Champions League, and it is an indication that you can, when you've got a big supporter base, when you've got that kind of big club sort of and proud history, whatever you want to call it, you can get a real momentum going. Leicester won a league off the back of it, off the back of a
Yeah.
momentum shift.
Yeah.
So you cling to those moments. I guess the only thing is that that people remember those moments because they're so rare, and that's the difficulty.
It is, but I also think life's about taking opportunities, isn't it? Taking chances. And
Yeah,
sounds like you're in a haunted house there, mate. What's going on? Like,
I just need some oil on that
is this
door.
is, it, is this Hall- is this
People
still
can,
a
no
Halloween
one
themed?
goes, no one comes into like the kitchen like extension bit until I do this, and then they're just in and out constantly.
I thought we were just
Yeah.
a few days out from Halloween. I thought you were doing like a bit of a
Yeah.
bit of a creepy podcast, creepy cast. No, I think look, it is difficult because I was going to point to the Leicester example myself, and you can even think in terms of cup runs. You know, a Greece, the Euro 2004. By the way, I was in Greece, working in Greece when Greece won the Euros, and people firing guns next to me in the street. In case you didn't know what a gun was, right? But the euphoria of that run that they went on, when Wigan went on the run and won the FA Cup, you know, Denmark in 1992, it was such a bigger thing for a Leicester to do it across a whole league season. Still the greatest team sporting achievement ever, in my opinion. Wow. But why can't you? And I always think this, if someone's going to do it, why can't it be us? You know, if you think about anybody in any job that they're in, someone's going to be the hardest working, someone's going to be the laziest, and everyone else is going to be in between. Someone's going to be the most positive, someone's going to be the most negative, and everyone else is going to be in between. And if you think about football teams now, the Premier League, I think he's as poor as it's been in a long time this season.
Well, there's so many teams beating other teams. There's so many teams that can't get away from, the rest of the pack. You know, you've seen
Yeah,
Everton put a couple of results together, then they get beat by Leicester. Leicester had a terrible start. Now they're starting to pick up. Leeds have kind of picked up a couple of decent results after looking like they were dead and buried today. There's so many teams. You know, Brentford have started the season really well. Now starting to look quite poor. You know, there's so many teams, like you say, mate, that are much of a muchness that if you can get on a bit of a run, if you can get a bit of momentum behind you, you can start to push up that table. And I guess where regardless of where we finish this season, it's more about kind of getting that momentum. Like
yeah,
there's so much there's so much about what Gerard's reign that hinged on the fact that we ended the season as a real damp squib last season. If
I
he'd have
totally
ended
agree.
the season with 2 or 3 wins out of the last 4 games, Villa fans would have been a lot more sort of positive for that upcoming season. But because it finished as like, a draw against Burnley, a draw against Crystal Palace, games where we were like, right, come on, let's finish with a bit of momentum here. Then it kind of made it. I don't know. It just really soured the taste for the new season, didn't it? So if Emery
Yeah,
can really sort of, because seasons, massive cliches, but they're so long that if you can start a season really badly and end the season really well, right? And then you're feeling really positive for the next season, or you could start the season really well and end the season really badly, but you could finish on the same points. But the way the perception looks at it is like, oh, that team's had a much better season because they ended the season really well. So it's
momentum.
just about that, really.
Momentum is everything. You know, we've been on the back end of a couple of 4-4 draws in the last 25 years, and I remember both Spurs and Leicester. Like, we were probably 4-1 up with 10 minutes to go. Spurs under O'Neill when Harewood made a silly challenge. Leicester was probably like mid to late 90s, probably when that happened. And once that second goal goes in for them, it's 4-2 with 6 minutes left. You're thinking, hang on a minute. And that is everything in football, isn't it? It's been, 2 sets down in tennis, 2 breaks down. All of a sudden, you get a break point. If I get this, I might get one back. And that is why, particularly I think in football, in Premier League terms as well, the momentum that Leicester got when they won that league was based on the fact that they won 7 out of the last 9 games at the season before. They then went on to feel amazing, and they won the league obviously the year after. We under Gerrard and under Smith finished that season badly, and that was really problematic for us because we went into the next season and it just wasn't going to be a good start. If you look at the situation that we're in now with Emery, I just hope the one thing we didn't see under Gerrard and the one thing we stopped seeing under Smith at the end was seeing good signs, positive signs. I do think Villa fans get a bit of a rough ride for this. I honestly think if Villa fans see there's the right kind of thing going on, they'll probably give away a few results if it feels good. And I do then think if that happened, the manager would get given more time if the confidence is there. And I think Emery needs, if he's the guy, the pedigree he needs his 3 or 4 years. he needs an opportunity to work and to build it and to get us to where we need to get to. But they've got to, and this is the key bit. It's all and good having good talk. They've got to back him on an even keel so we can compete with whether it, West Ham buying Skamaka or Newcastle buying Isak, whoever, the big money that's going around. We've got to be able to compete with them at that level within FFP, and the fans have got to be on side, and we've got to make sure that we, as a club, play on the front foot, I feel. And if we do all of that, I do feel with a coach of his pedigree, I feel it's impossible to not progress. To what end, to what level of success, whatever that may be. But I think Villa fans have been starved for so long of a little bit of consistent, just, going upwards a little bit, just a little bit, starting to fit top 10 regularly.
Premier League's so difficult, though. It is so difficult. People don't realise, like you said, the quality maybe of the middle teams isn't that great, but that's an indication of how tough it is. Every team at that level has got a star player. Every team at that level can beat a team. Every team at that level can pay similar wages. Rather than the Man Cities or whatever blowing other teams out of the water. It's so difficult. It's so difficult.
It is, mate. It is. And by the way, I don't think, when we talk about, when I say there's a lot of poor teams, and therefore my point is, if you're ever going to kick on and push on, I know Newcastle have kind of got a little bit ahead of us in the race, but I don't think they're so far ahead of us with their squad that we couldn't, certainly be a bit up where they are. It's more the fact that
it's a mentality thing with Newcastle as well. That game last week was a complete mirror of what we're like as a club and what they're like as a club. And it was fairly even at half time. They got a penalty, and then they got the next goal, and then we just absolutely crumbled. And that is just an indication of how we've been for the last 3 or 4 years in the Premier League. Weak mentally, weak physically. And, I really hope Emery can turn it around, but it's going to take a lot of time. You can't just flick a switch and say, oh, all of a sudden the players are mentally strong. All of a sudden we've actually got a midfield now. It's got to be the right signings, the right players, and then mixed with winning games from situations that we haven't won games before. We hardly ever win from going 1-0 down, 2-0 down. We hardly ever win from, a team. We go 1-0 up and then the team comes back and then we go and win it again. We don't, we hardly ever do any of those situations. None of our players have got any situation that they can turn back to and say, right, we've won a game from this situation before. We've done this before. He's basically working from scratch.
Yeah, he absolutely is. They've got to back him, and we've said it many times. There's been a weak underbelly of the club, so we've got to back him. We've got to back him also with decision making, because I know, like, we don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but I think a lot of that squad needs to be jettisoned. I think a lot of that squad is proven it's not good enough. Not saying there's not coachable, things they can do to get the best out of some players in there and to convert people that maybe weren't performing under previous managers. And we might see a few surprise names come back into the fold and a few signings making a difference, hopefully, in the next 2 windows. But I also think probably some big names do need to be moved out, and that there's going to be a bit of bravery around that. So, look, the other thing as well, which I think with Emery is he talked about, wanting to show our identity and what we're going to do. And look, I will say one thing, and I'll pop the comment up. Cheers, damned if you do. I'm not expecting us to be playing on the front foot all the time. I'm half expecting some Conte ball at times. Seems to be how basically what Emery does. So, I did actually say be on the front foot. Sorry, let me rephrase. What I mean is, I know Emery teams are quite counter-attacking. So they'll be a bit more kind of progressive with possession, playing it around the back, being a bit more sturdy. But I do remember, particularly with Arsenal, they were very good on the counter, and that is, I know we're not going to be like a Dean Smith Championship style manager, but I just think at least when you are attacking, at the times you are attacking, make it potent, make it exciting, get players bombing on, get more players in the box. I mean, the amount of times Villa counter-attack in the last couple of years, and it's like Watkins on his own chasing a lost ball, and I just think if you're going to attack properly. If you're going to defend properly, and keep that midfield solid.
Absolutely. Let's go through a couple of comments then before we get into kind of the Newcastle. I've got them on the brain. The Man United game tomorrow. So
No more
Aaron,
Newcastle, please.
thanks for tuning in. Said I feel the same, Rich. I'm sick of all the talk. Time we show it on the pitch. If Emery can't bring us success, I worry. Barry's joining us. Said Perslow did look awkward yesterday after all his Stevie G bravado a year ago. T1 makes a point here. I think we need a director of football. Perzo's making too many football decisions and he's not qualified. Stick to the commercial stuff. This is the only thing I want the owners to do now. It's a good point, mate.
It's a good
Good
point.
point.
I
Yeah.
agree. I've talked about Persley before that I think he gets a little bit of a rough ride because he's done a lot of stuff commercially really well for us in terms of the whole ground redevelopment and everything. But he put his name to Gerrard, and that Gerrard name he put to didn't work out at all. Now we can all make a bad decision in work, but some of the talk around Gerrard was massive, wasn't it? It was massive. So I think a director of football would be a good shout.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well said. Gary says, well said, Rich. We're living in the past, and this for me is the start of something special. Let's hope so. Let's hope so. And he also has total faith in these players when properly coached. Fingers crossed. T1 said, the thing is, if these boys think that they cannot perform and get the coach sacked, they have another thing coming. Emery is here to stay. It's them, not him, that are going to get sacked. I hope you're right. I just think, it's far easier to get rid of managers than it is to get rid of players. Because players are playing badly, you can't get them. You can't. No one wants to buy them.
Yeah, and you've also, like we've said many times, it is a mutual thing because I don't care, right, how bad Gerrard was. That some of the performances were just not good enough, and he certainly wouldn't have helped it. I'd say what says a lot, right? You've only got to look at that Newcastle game on the back of the 4-0 win against Brentford to capitulate like that. But the performances of some of those players. I mean, Gareth Southgate was in the crowd. I mean, Watkins clearly doesn't fancy going to the Middle East in a few weeks because, look, we can all have a bad game. I get it. And not everyone's always brilliant at football. But sometimes I do think to myself, like, what are you doing? Some of these players, and maybe the time is just, it's just time to move a few of them on. I'm feeling positive about the future. I really am. But I'm also not convinced about probably 17 to 18 members of our squad. And that might be pretty scathing and pretty bad. But I'm just saying it as I see it. I just am. I honestly don't think I think we need Mings at the moment because I think he's, with Carlos injured, he's our best centre half. I ain't that bothered really if we didn't have Konza, Chambers or Bednarek. I'm not that bothered about any of our fullbacks. Genuinely, I'm not. Kessel Hayden, I think, has got potential, but he can't get in the Huddersfield team at the bottom of the Championship. But I don't really think Dean yet so far. Cash have said to me, oh my God, they are irreplaceable in the midfield. JJ's got real potential. He's a young player. McGinn, I ain't bothered. Louise, I ain't bothered. Coutinho, I think maybe his best days behind him. Wendy has started to deceive. Bailey, same. And up front, his Ings past it. We can revitalise him. Watkins, I think time's done. Honestly, my perspective on the team is who do I think we need to keep in that squad? Tim Irigbounam, definitely. Doesn't play for us at the moment. Cameron Archer, definitely. Mings, I can't believe I'm saying it. Martinez, yeah, you're probably saying Dean, yeah, because still in his 20s pedigree. You're probably saying Ramsey. The rest of them, honestly, Ashley Young. I'm picking Ashley Young 7th or 8th, and he's 37. So, and I know you're not going to, and I know Louise has got loads of potential, and Bailey might come good, and Ings has still got, a few goals in his tank. We'll hope. I think there needs to be some big decisions.
I think Tuan made the point, or Gary, if they're coached properly, maybe we'll see these players coming through. But at the same time, you've got to. These are elite professional footballers. Like at some point, they have to take some responsibility for themselves. So, Gaza says there, listen, it's going to be a couple of years before we see the plan coming together. I just hope us as Villa fans give that time because we haven't got a great track record.
If we see it moving forward, mate, we will.
I hope so.
And AJ, by the way, I forgot about Kamara and Carlos because I've been injured. Absolutely, Kamara and Carlos would definitely be on the list. Definitely.
Well, like I say, the jury is out. Not on Emery in terms of his pedigree. It's more on the players and the fans for me, because we can be the most fickle fans going, and it doesn't take many bad games or a run of 3 or 4 defeats for the the sword of Damocles to be looming over Emery's head. So we will wait and see.
And also, before we move on to the Man United game, just quickly, I'd say it's also amazing what a couple of signings can do. And, look at what Bruno Guimaraes has done for Newcastle. Other than Bruno Guimaraes, they've got Isak, who's been a record signing, but he's been injured most of the time. Dan Burn, Matty Target, Chris Wood, Kieran Trippier has been brilliant as well. Trippier and Guimaraes have revitalised that team. Yeah, you get Almiron playing like, prime Messi, but it's those two signings really that have taken them to the next level. And maybe we've been unlucky with Carlos and Kamara. Maybe they would have been that for us. Who knows? But if we can get a really good attacking, there's big links to wingers, isn't there, for January? We can get an exciting forward player in, a good midfield player in. Maybe he gets his own centre half in. You can start to see him putting his stamp on the team.
Yeah. Well, Willie asked the question here. Come January, do you think Emery will go for players about 30 with experience or go for younger players?
It's a good question. That I don't know too much about his track record of playing players, who are further, advanced years, shall we say? So I'm not sure. I think the squad we've got has got a good mix now of. I say good mix, good in the sense of, it's a blend, not good as in it works, of older players, in terms of your Diñas, your Coutinhos, your Martinez's and younger players. So I do think we probably need some prime players that are in their prime, early to mid 20s.
Also, it probably depends on the fitness of Carlos and Kamara. Like if they come back in, you've obviously got players with like one young player, one older player with a real pedigree. So it might give them a little bit more freedom to maybe make a couple of signings of players either in their prime or sort of younger players that he wants to coach and develop. So
yeah, mate, I was going to say, here's a question just quickly. Do you think that the way we were pre-season and the way we were at the start of this season was the reason why they didn't back Gerrard to maybe make some bigger signings? Because I was saying for quite a bit, I'm surprised we haven't made a showstopper sign, and I really thought we would. Do you think it was because they thought maybe he's not our guy and we'll see how it goes?
No, I don't. I think probably some of the targets that they went for didn't materialize. I think him and maybe Johan Lang possibly didn't see eye to eye fully on all the signings. And yeah, I think you've seen a shift in kind of strategy over the last sort of 2 or 3 years, and it's a weird one because obviously we signed like the likes of Diña, Coutinho in the January, who were, like you say, players that were ready-made, more experienced, and then it was a bit of a mishmash in the summer one, and I don't know. I think the way that they had it in their head for the plan for the summer transfer just didn't work. They thought, we'll get these 2 players in, or the 3 players over the line, the main ones, Coutinho over the line, we'll get Carlos and we'll get Kamara. Fantastic. We were waxing lyrical about it. It was like amazing. Then it was like, right, now we'll get rid of the players that we don't want and we'll have 2 or 3 weeks to get players in that we do want. Nobody wanted our players. That was the problem.
Yeah, it was like,
So in their head, it was like, oh, this is going to work out perfectly. And then as it didn't happen, as these players wouldn't go, whether it was their agent wanted more money or the clubs that were after them weren't good enough for them or what, I don't know, but they just couldn't shift the players. So then you'd end up with too many players on your books. And then you've got to go back to those players as Gerrard. You've got to go back to those players because you've then got to use them for the pre-season matches, or you've then got to say, "Oh, actually, I might need you in the squad for the first match of the season." And they're like, "Well, you didn't want me 2 weeks ago. Why are you coming back to me?" I just think all of those things in their head were like, it was like Southgate with like the Euro final. He had every move in his head planned, except the fact that he had an opposition that was working against him. The best laid plans are always brilliant in your head, but they just never always materialize. And I think that's what killed Villa in pre-season.
There was certainly some strange decisions, wasn't there? I mean, I think when we started, I remember the pod we did when we'd signed basically all 3 of them before the transfer window had even opened. We'd pretty much announced Carlos from Sevilla, obviously. Obviously, Kamara was a big coup, and then obviously Coutinho on the perm. And it was very much I think the equivalent of seeing like a Christmas tree full of presents. You open 3, and it's like, oh my god, this is amazing. I got the PS5, I got a new watch, I got a new pair of trainers, and then the rest of the boxes are empty. Like, there's there's a banana in one and an orange in another. That's it. Because the expectation was like, wow, this is going to be an amazing window. Our pod was so positive about it, but then the hard decisions. You've really got to look at the Saar deal. And I've said this many times. Cannot be. Imagine, Rich. Listen, fancy the bacon sarnies, mate. Go to the shop and get some bread. All right, love. No worries. I'll go to the shop and get some bread. You go to the shop and you were only going to buy medium Hovis. That's it. And if there's no bread there, I ain't fucking buying it. Sorry. And you get home. Like, well, the only option we had was Saar, apparently. That was it. That was it in all of the transfer market, with Aston Villa's might and power and money and attraction to get the likes of a Gerrard and Emery to come to us in the first place, and a Coutinho and a Dina, etc. We had one option. Madness. And then you let all your other wingers go, and then you're forced with, if Bailey's injured, you've got no wide players. So you're playing 2 10s in Buendia and Coutinho wide. It don't work. And it's just like, why didn't we not see this coming? The point around the midfield for years, we've not had anywhere near enough strength in that midfield. So they went into this season knowing how bad the back end of last season was. They didn't change it in the window. They didn't change it at the start. They've changed it with Dendoncker finally. But is he the answer? And that is clearly, for me, whether it's Gerrard, Langer, Purslow, whoever it is, they don't spot that team needs midfield steel for years. There's a problem somewhere with that.
100%. And Tim made the point about the director of football, and that these are people who will look at the trends and look at kind of, the future. What is football going to look like in 5 years' time, 10 years' time? What are the prototype of players that are going to be developing then? How is the Premier League going to line up, or top level football going to line up? Because, the kind of, it's gone back to kind of mid-90s, when you had the Petits and the Vieiras and all that, in the big physical athletic players in midfield of the mid-90s. It's gone back to that now. So, in 5 years' time, it might go back to the kind of smaller players, Barcelona type players that were kind of flourished after that period. This is what a director of football will do. They'll be able to scout players and look at the trends of what type of players are coming through. At the moment, it's all about one striker up top on his own who kind of covers 3 or 4 different jobs on the pitch. It might go back to the standard 4-4-2. Who knows? Might go back to the big man, little man up front. We don't know that. So that's what I think we need to get better at, and we need to get better at kind of predicting and hopefully Emery brings that style, brings that identity, and we start to sign players that fit how we want to play and what we want to do, rather than just signing players for the sake of it and trying to fit them in however way we can.
Yeah, because all Villa fans have been looking for ages, haven't they? And gone, how do you get Ings? How do you get Bailey? How do you get, Buendia? How are they getting in this team now? Then when it was a different type of player that they're supposed to be replacing, playing McGinn, Ramsey, Louise in the midfield, because maybe there are better players, but is that the best combination? Is that what you need? And sometimes you need to just be effective. Look at Dan Burn. Yeah, sorry, can I just say, I just had to try and let the dog out, and I realised I was like, was he most haunted or through the keyhole as walking around? Yeah, no worries. You're welcome, everybody.
It's a bit like Peep Show, where you had the camera following you, where it's like just focused on your face.
I'm a big fan of Peep Show, so I should have done a bit of voiceover.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. For those who can see, I've got a Great Dane here as well, trying to annoy me. So there he is. Look at the size of this dog I have to deal with. He's in my face.
He wants to get in the pod.
He wants to get in the pod, yeah.
So yeah, let's get into it anyway. We touched on all of the players that we've got and all the players that aren't necessarily playing at the moment, and they've all got a clean slate essentially, haven't they?
Well, I hope so, mate. I hope so.
And going into the game tomorrow, 1 or 2 of them might be thinking, well, I might get a game here. One of the real positives from the training session, sorry, mate, was we saw a certain Boubacar Kamara training across the week. Maybe not ready for tomorrow, possibly looking like he might be ready for Thursday, but is that a little teaser for possible comeback?
Maybe. I mean, he's trained all week, which is great. I didn't put him in my team. I did nearly spring a couple of surprises.
We'll get your team in a second, and we've got loads of people sort of commenting on what they think. So yeah, get your thoughts in on what you think the team will be, and we'll read them out. But yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah, is Kamara a shout or
probably too soon.
it's 100% positive to see him coming in. It's amazing when a new manager comes in, all of a sudden,
Yeah,
the players are coming back on the training pitch
that
and
is,
they all want to impress.
mate. That is a. Have you seen that tweet going round of like, I think it's Sanson and Dini when they hear Emery's turned up, and it's that, and the clip is when when Tyson Fury's like spark out, and he just gets up out of nowhere off the floor before the 10 count. It's really funny, really funny, really funny. Yeah. No, I think he's probably too soon for him. It's probably too soon for him.
Yeah.
So,
And one
yeah,
other player who's kind of, apparently is rated very highly by Unai Emery is Morgan Sanson, and I know you talked a little bit about him before we came on the show. But yeah, I bet he's pretty buzzing about training again, and I bet he's first to arrive, last to leave again now.
I bet he was whistling, dancing in the moonlight, wasn't he, on the drive-in?
Yeah.
All bit of girls allowed in the car, like all chuffed. Like it's a game changer for him. I mean, two of the managers didn't fancy him. I don't know why, but every time I see glimpses of Sanson as a player, I think he's got something. And again, I do not understand how he wasn't getting any game time when we were playing as badly as we were playing for such a consistent amount of time. I haven't put him in my team. I did initially put him in my team, but I just thought he's not played for so long that maybe there'll be other he'll pick another team. But there's definitely hope for a Sanson. And clearly he would have seen him as well. I think he commented, didn't he? In terms of being at PSG, he would have seen him. You don't get to the level of pedigree he got. I mean, he was a real coup when we signed him, because supposedly he was touted for like 28-30 million. We got him for half price pretty much in a January deal. And I don't think he's ever not played well when he's played for us. Yeah, he made a mistake for the Bruno Fernandes goal against Man United. He played really well that game. I don't think he played the next game.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, he's not. If two managers haven't fancied him, and Smith, I would have imagined, would have given him a chance. Had he. He was always very fair and stuff like that. We've given people play a chance and stuff. So he's got a lot of work to do for me, and the comments from everyone else kind of back that up. But we will see. We will see. As I say, everyone's got a clean slate. On to Man United though. What have you made of? What have you made of them under Eric Ten Hag? Because this time last season or across last season, it was kind of chaos at United and scandal, and there has been one or two little bits, obviously with Ronaldo kind of throwing his toys at him. But for me, he's sort of handled everything really well at Man United.
I don't think you can really argue with the job that he's done based on how low they were, and particularly when you consider. Sorry, I've got a dog in my face again. Just to answer the guy who said, "Is it Schmeichel?" No, his name's Buddy. By the way, Buddy the Dane. But it's like having an overgrown child that doesn't listen to me.
Yeah, I did start that comment because obviously one Great Dane to another. But
Schmeichel, yeah. No, I don't think. Look at that performance that they had against Brentford. I mean, it was literally it was crazy how bad they were. And give a manager a bit of time. He's made some tough decisions, hasn't he? He's not had it easy as well, because obviously very, very highly rated player, obviously in terms of Mason Greenwood and all the horrible allegations against him, and what a scumbag allegedly he seems to be. That won't help. You've got Ronaldo who's throwing his toys at the Prem every 2 minutes. You've got, Eriksen probably getting used to the pace of the Premier League. And yeah, I mean, I don't think they're amazing. I don't think they're certainly, for us, I think they're absolutely beatable. But and that's the thing with Man United for us always, the hoodoo they've had over us. For a long time, they've not been a brilliant team. They're swashbuckling team back in the day when Van Nistelrooy getting back in the game, or, Ronaldo getting back in the team. They're not that anymore. Mm-hmm. So I look at it and I think to myself, like, where are we at in terms of our ability as a team? We should be able to beat teams like this. But I think he's done a decent job, but I'm still not wow about him.
Yeah, no. I guess it's the fact that not everyone's they don't seem to be in the headlines as much for the wrong reasons. I think that's probably the best thing we can say about them. They're kind of just picking up points, just moving on up the table. And I think Gary's made a comment there. Rashford's looking good again, and he's sort of making a late run for the England squad again. One player who won't be playing though, and it's a great news for us because he won't get a penalty, is Bruno Fernandes.
Everyone's favourite Premier League footballer, Bruno Fernandes. What a guy! What a guy! I cannot say I am remotely upset about that. I mean, the amount, like two or three penalties he's won against us for terrible decisions. So, yeah, let him sit in the stands and watch our first win in 29 years at home, where it is against them.
Yeah, yeah, and obviously I did a little bit of a I do a bit of an article every so often called Up for Debate with the BBC, and they gave me the question of Maguire or Mings. And obviously Maguire's been out of form and injured and stuff, and I kind of just about plumped for Tyrone Mings. But I think Rachel's made the comment that they have looked a bit more solid defensively, incidentally without Maguire, but they can be got at, and players like Luke Shaw, one or two others. How do you fancy kind of the likes of Bailey or Buendia or Watkins or whoever against their back line? I think we can hurt them.
Bailey, who knows? Bailey's like a week away on holiday in England in March. Like, you don't know what you're going to get. You don't know what you're going to get. Dude.
Yeah, he could get bright sunshine all week. Yeah,
could be snow. I mean, you can't. At no point with Bailey. Like, Bailey's like tossing a coin. Like, so. Honestly, I'd like to be more confident about him, but I've just been so underwhelmed. I do think that team is absolutely gettable. Absolutely. By the way, the Mings Maguire, without much grief Mings gets, Mings Maguire, it's a clear win for me for Mings, because I think Maguire's been poor for ages. I know the argument is he's never obviously let England down much, but well, maybe he has lately, actually, to be fair. But yeah, I look at that team and think, oh my God, what a side. We're going to really, really struggle to break through. I think De Gea has been in decent form, but I think he's been a bit here and there at times. Maguire, Martinez, we haven't got a big striker, have we? We haven't got a Keenan Davis or a Tammy Abraham,
No.
So that will probably play in Martinez's hands because he's good in the ball. Shaw's decent, Dallow's decent, but they're not top level fullbacks, are they? They're not, they're not Patrice Evra and, Gary Neville, whatever, back in the day. Casemiro, Ericsson, decent, but I know Casemiro's got a good pedigree, but Elanga, Rashford's been better this season, but I don't know. I don't look at that team and think, wow, who's the superstar in that team? The superstar is Ronaldo.
And their stats kind of back up exactly what you're saying, Kev, because they are kind of solid. 12 games, won 7, drawn 2, lost 3. Goals scored 17, goals against 16, and then points 23. So a solid side, like no real standout star. And I think obviously he's taken Ronaldo out of the team, maybe as a purposeful thing that he doesn't want that player kind of dominating all of the headlines. Maybe the same with Maguire, and just to get that team element back, because those stats would suggest that they don't score that many goals, but they don't concede that many. But as Rachel said, they can be got at.
Yeah, and it's only literally 2.5 months since a team with exactly the same back five, Eriksen in midfield, and Fernandes, Rashford, and Ronaldo. So basically, 8 of that team were 4-0 down at halftime against Brentford. Yeah. Anyone can have about half, of course they can, but I think an up for it Villa, a buoyant Villa Park with a new manager, with an exciting team lineup with a bit of front foot energy play when we're attacking. This could be a great moment. I mean, if he beats them, then every other game we play against anybody will be, well, beat Man United in his first game. So it was just whatever he can do. Sneak an extra player on the pitch if he can. Just do whatever you can do.
Yeah. Well, let's get on to your lineup, and then we'll go through other people's people's comments on your lineup and what they think. But yeah, you've gone for. Let me just get rid of the banner so everyone can see. You've gone for Martinez in goal, Mings and Bednarek at centre back, Ashley Young at right back, Luca Dean at left back, Dendonka Louise. Have you done that again with Chambers?
Oh, Coutinho, that is. Sorry, I've made a mistake. That is that's the great down in my face when I did it. Chambers is not playing the 10 role. That's
No,
definitely Coutinho. Sorry.
okay, so quite a few changes. So then we'd have Coutinho in there. So ignore that, everyone. Leon Bailey on the right hand side, Ramsey on the left hand side. I'd imagine they might swap at certain points, and
Yeah.
Danny Ings up front. So basically, we've got no we've got no Watkins, we've got no Buendia, we've got no Cash, and we've got no Konza.
Yeah, it wholesale changes, and I nearly had Sanson in there as well. I think he generally plays the two, doesn't he, in front of the strikers? Sorry, in front of the defenders. So I figured that's the best option you've got of a double pivot. And then I didn't know what to do. This is the problem with Villa. The team doesn't pick itself. I thought he might want the energy of Ramsey. Where am I going to stick him in the team? It's Coutinho or Buendia for me, and maybe Coutinho. He can't be done just yet. And I think Cash. I think the problem for the fullbacks has been that Young's been the best out of all of them. So then it was a toss up between who to prefer, Dina and Cash, and I just plumped for Dina and put him on the other side. The centre halves was. I've just felt that they've been very underwhelmed. I don't think Konza's been really that great.
Didn't have a good game at all last week. I totally take you. Like Gazza's there, put Konza and Watkins will play in his opinion. Rachel said she can see Chambers come into defence, and Chambers did well with Emery at Arsenal. It's very difficult for a new manager within the first week to come in and just either A, make loads of changes, or B, keep the same side that got absolutely spanked 4-0. So what? Yeah, you could literally pick. You could try and pick it. And there's a case for anyone to play, really, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the point about Chambers as well. I nearly put Chambers in a right back because he's played. Emery's got a history of playing like big centre halves and like big right backs to give you a bit more solidity. I just thought Young was probably undroppable at the moment based on his playing from a leadership perspective. So if he's going to play him in the team, then I mean, I think now I think about Young could be a wild card option for one of those wide striker roles. I know he's gone back more in his career, but if you want him in the team, his delivery's good. If you're struggling for width, is there a worse option if you want to keep him in the team?
Yeah, well, it's also that point of, does Emery go at it straight away and try and get off to a fast start, or does he try and hold United and sort of be 0-0 or whatever at half time and then try and go for it second half? It's a difficult one, isn't it? And how much of his stamp has been put on the team in the space of what, 3 training sessions?
Watkins.
4 max.
Watkins, if he plays, he'll have 5 chances to score 4, and he'll hit the post with the other one. Coutinho will be creative goals, left, right, and centre. It'll be brilliant. Defense will be solid.
7-2. It's going to be Liverpool all over again, isn't it?
It's going to be fantastic, mate. In Unai, we trust.
Yeah.
Unai Emery's magic. He wears a magic hat. I don't know what the song is.
So Timon's gone Martinez, Luca Dean, Cash, Chambers, Mings, Louise, Dendoncker, and McGinn in the 10 role. With Bailey, Ramsey, and Watkins. Deontay has gone for Martinez, Cash, Chambers, Mings, and Dean. Dendoncker and Louise, Bailey, Buendia, and Ramsey and Watkins. And Timon would prefer Archer. Interested to see if he gets any more minutes. I think Dendoncker and Louise will start because I think they did okay first half against Newcastle. Did fade in the second half. I can see Konsa coming out. I think I agree with you there, and I think could see maybe Cash coming out as well. So I do. I think Young might go to right back. Luca Dean will go left back. I could see Mings alongside Chambers. I think because he probably knows him a bit better. Dendoncker, Louise, Buendia, I think, will play in that 10 role. And I think he might do. I think he might go Ramsey, Ings, Bailey.
Yeah. I've seen the comments. I would also really like to see Archer get a run of games, based on the level of strikers and what they've done right now. I think we need a better striker. Again, comments incoming. We need a massive striker next year, as in signing wise. I love the idea, Tiwan, of McGinn in the 10 role. I love it. And again, I know Gaza says he thrives in a 10 role for Scotland. He does against Kazakhstan and Austria and Luxembourg. But When you've got Buendia and Coutinho in your team, I don't know how you can be playing McGinn ahead of them in a creative role. I do worry sometimes whether McGinn has reached his limit. I do. I think should we have taken that room with 40 million from Man United? The McGinn, that maybe the captaincy's weighing him down and maybe taking it off him and get back to that kind of player, but he just doesn't seem to be anywhere near the races in the last 12 months.
Mm-hmm.
And that is sometimes that happens to players. Sometimes they have a good phase and a good spell, and you don't always just keep going up and up and up from Scottish youth football to Scottish football to Championship.
Sam's talked about ceilings, and is it a case that McGinn at 27, maybe 28, as he hit his ceiling, and that's what we can expect now. I don't know.
I think the same. He's just turned 28, McGinn, so
Yeah.
Experience
Tuan's asked a question just before we get into a couple of stats, and then your then our predictions and your guys' predictions of what you think the score's going to be, to get them coming in as well. What do you make of Watkins and Archer in the training vids up front? Now, I haven't seen too much of the training video, so I have to admit that. But is that a kind of indication as to what might happen potentially on Sunday, or is it a case of just seeing different combinations and that just happened to be the one that they've videoed?
Yeah, it might just be timed video. Gary, I wish it was Keenan Davis and Archer, but no, sorry. No, I like the idea of two up top. I don't think Ings and Watkins play well as a two up top, but Archer a bit more pace, but Watkins is not known for his flick-ons, is he really much? So I don't know. Yeah, I like the idea of having two up top, but what do you lose for that? I mean, it does solve a problem in terms of you don't need to try and find two wide forwards. But yeah, it's I'm not too sure, because you could then have the two and then have like a three behind, couldn't you? Basically, so
yeah. Well, positive signs, and you never know. We might see something majorly different. Who knows? It's, as we said before, it's a clean slate for all players. And one thing you will want to do, and as I said at the start of the show, if he does want a way of making himself an instant hero, it's to pull off a result against Man United, because these stats would suggest that we haven't got a great head-to-head against them. 54 Premier League games. Man United have won 37 of them, and we've won 4. We've only scored 34 goals. They've scored 99, so they could hopefully they don't get their 100th tomorrow. 7 clean sheets for us, 27 for Man United, and the last 5 have been 3 defeats, and then actually the last season we did manage to take 4 points off them, so we got a win at Old Trafford and a draw at Villa Park after coming back from 2-0 down. So yeah, doesn't make for great reading, Kev, but maybe some solace to take from the last 2 results against them.
Yeah, I mean, it's been positive recently, and I think that's more of a sign about how bad they've been, though, rather than how good we've been. Although we were good value for that win at Old Trafford, we had a lot more chances. So I think that's a reasonable shout, and I think we played them in the FA Cup, didn't we? And we absolutely battered them. I thought that was one of our best performances of the season, the FA Cup. So, and then we didn't really read it. I've got a great Dane barking at me again. I can believe this. You and your creaky doors, and me
yeah. Well, you do know it's live. Yeah. If you need to let him out, Kev, go ahead.
I'll do my through the keyhole again if I have to. Yeah.
But yeah, I think yeah, it's just a great great opportunity for Emery to get off to a great start, and who knows, as I said, that my tweet yesterday was not aimed at Emery, and I am optimistic. I really am optimistic, and let's hope for a positive result tomorrow. So, first of all, I just want to say thanks everyone for tuning in. Before we get everyone's predictions, before we get your prediction, Kev, as I say always, please do leave a like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel if you are new. We are well on the way to 600. I've just checked there, and we've gone up another 3 or 4 subscribers just tonight. We're up to 575 now, Kev.
Yeah, great news, mate. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, phenomenal. Considering we haven't been that regular with the pods this last week, it's great that we've still got so many people watching and supporting us. So yeah, continue spreading the word. The likes really help. We're getting upwards of 70, 80 to 100 likes now on our videos, and that really does help us spread the word. So please, everyone, if you are watching, drop us a like. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I believe 60% of our viewers haven't subscribed. So, that's almost 2/3 of our viewers that haven't subscribed. So please do. It's free, and you'll know when our videos are coming out. So yeah, fantastic support from everyone. So thank you all. And we're getting loads of scores coming in. Gaza is saying 3-1 Man United. Gary thinks it's going to be a cracking atmosphere tomorrow. Let's hope so. T1, all I know, they will not score a lot of goals, so we can do something. Fingers crossed. Let us know your score, T1. AJ saying 2-0 to Man United, as is Rachel as well. Gary's being a bit more positive, saying a 1-1 draw. T1 is saying a grinding 1-0 victory for us. Damned if you do is saying a 3-1 Villa win. Dougie with a hat trick from corners. I want to know what odds you would get for that. And Barry is saying Manu don't know what to expect, backing us to finally break the hoodoo and a 2-1 victory. And Martin is saying a 2-2 draw. And Mark is saying 2-2 draw as well. So Mark, thanks very much for the stats and all the thumbnails as well that you do for us, mate.
Cheers,
so
Mark. Thanks,
much
mate.
appreciated. Kev, can I trouble you for a score and scorers, please?
It's going to be 16-3 to Aston Villa. It's going to be the most amazing time. Unai's charge up the league, goal difference sorted. No, I'm going to say that life's about taking opportunities and taking moments, and I don't think it'd be lost on Unai with his meticulous planning. I read something like when they played the Man United in the Europa League, watched like the previous 16 games or 17 games or something. So, I just think he's going to leave no stone unturned. I'm sure he'll have a plan for us. And I think it's going to be, well, if it's not the first prediction, I think it's going to be 2-1 Villa. I think, unfortunately, Man United will get their 100th goal against us, but I fancy us to get a win. I do. I feel it.
Who's going to score?
It's going to be Sanson's going to come off the bench and score.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah, and a Chambers header from a corner. He's going to come off the bench as well. 2 players I didn't pick in my lineup. There you go. Yeah, there you go.
Excellent, excellent.
Yeah, the thing with Villa right now is you don't even know, do you? There's no predictions about.
Exactly.
Everyone's scored about the same goals.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, the team that he puts out. Really interesting. Willie says, new manager, new beginnings, new start, 2-0 up the Villa. Gary says, what does the Great Dane think?
He's literally, at the moment, he's chewing one of my socks off my feet. He's climbed over me on top of me. We need midfield presence like this, basically.
Yeah, you do. You need something all over you like a rash. I'm gonna say 2-1 as well. I'm gonna say we are gonna win 2-1. I think it's gonna be really tense at the end, but we are gonna get the victory, which will be much needed, because I do believe if we don't get a positive result, we could well be in the bottom 3 after the end of the games tomorrow. But yeah, I'm going to say 2-1 victory. I'm going to say Danny Ings is going to score and Leon Bailey will score, because he's a bit of a homer and I think he will perform in front of the crowd. So yeah, positive vibes, and a new era under Unai Emery. Let's make sure that we get off to a great start. Let's back him as Villa fans as well. Like I said before, my sort of tweet, don't take it as negative on Unai. It's more about us as supporters. We have to give this manager time. He's signed a 4.5-year deal. If we go through tough times, if we go through bad runs, we can't be constantly changing managers, getting on the manager's back. Even if we're not seeing that progress, or players are playing badly or whatever, it takes time to shift players out and bring players in, and we have to give the manager that time, because we just can't keep changing managers. And I do agree that this is probably the best manager that we've had in terms of pedigree and in terms of medals that he can put on the table. So we ain't gonna get a better opportunity.
Yeah, but also, mate, like we do need the points. If you look at the league now, I mean, look at obviously how bad this season's been, and Leeds are ahead of us in the league. after apparently they're terrible, and Leicester Leicester bottom of the league, and right at the bottom there, 2 points ahead of us, and Everton, who are just crap ahead of us, Bournemouth ahead of us. We're basically in a situation where we're joint third bottom. We've got the fourth worst goal difference. Joint fourth worst goal difference. And we're going to give Emery time, but if you're trying to attract players in January, you'd rather be 10th, 11th, 12th in the league. Sorry, my dog's knocking the laptop now. You'd rather be 10th, 11th, 12th in the league than 17th, 18th, because you're going to struggle to attract people. I'm still amazed Newcastle did what they did.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, and hopefully, good result tomorrow, good result against Brighton on next week, and it's looking up as well. Apart from looking down. So, let's get a positive result tomorrow, mate, and let's hopefully we can be looking really positive on into the season after the World Cup. But mate, it's been a pleasure. I know we've had a few little disruptions, dog creaking doors, but we've got through it, mate. As the gift says there, please do subscribe to the channel. Please give a like to the video. As I say, we're well on the road to 600 subscribers. Rachel won a prize at 500. We'll be back with a new prize at 1,000. So get subscribing, get sharing the channel out there, and hopefully we get a massive result tomorrow. And only thing to remember from everyone is we'll follow the Villa.
Thanks everyone. Cheers.
Yeah. Bye-bye.